So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spy Knight, and in these podcasts, I like talking all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing the upcoming Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield starring film, We Live in Time. So, without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? We Live in Time, as I already said, is this upcoming romantic drama film starring Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. And I wanted to see this film before the end of the year because I love them two actors. I love Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh and whatever they're in. I think they always bring it with their performances. And I thought the trailers for this film made it look absolutely wonderful. And I like a good romantic drama when they're done well. Some romantic dramas are a little mushy and too melodramatic for my liking. But again, when they're done well, I can really like one, and this looked like it was going to be up my alley, and I wanted to see it before the end of the year. But then I realised that in the UK it wasn't releasing till January 2025. So I may be wondering how and why am I reviewing it in today's podcast? How did I get to see this film early? Well, the simple answer is there was a preview screening of it at my local cinema, so when I saw there was a preview screening of it, I jumped at the opportunity to go and watch the film at the cinema because I wanted to see it before the end of the year, in case it ended up being one of my favourite films of the year. And I went into this film hoping to get a similar sort of film watching experience as I had watching the Richard Curtis film About Time. I think About Time is a very underrated film, and it's almost perfect for what it is. I mean, About Time is more of a rom-com than a romantic drama, but I think it also has a lot of very well done dramatic moments which make that film work on another level. And I love About Time. I watch it like at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, maybe even 3 times a year. So I was hoping to get the same sort of viewing experience watching this film as I had watching About Time, and I went in really hoping I was going to love it, because I've heard some sniffy things about it. I've heard some people being not so keen on the movie, but, you know, I was hoping to really get into it and believe in the love story and everything like that. So that is why I went to go and see the film at the cinema last night. And the Google plot synopsis of the film goes as follows. Almut, played by Florence Pugh in the film, and Tobias, played by Andrew Garfield in this film, are brought together by a surprise encounter that changes their lives. As they embark on a path challenged by the limits of time, they learn to cherish each other, each moment of their unconventional love story. And that's pretty much all you need to know about We Live in Time before seeing it. And honestly, I love this film. I really enjoyed watching it. And the thing I liked the most, the thing I loved about this film the most even, was how much I believed in the central love story. If you don't believe in that love story, I can see where the rest of the film would fall apart for you. But I totally believed in the love story, to the point that I wanted to see more of it. And that's probably my biggest criticism of this film. I wish it was longer. I don't usually say that about films. Usually I'm the opposite. I wish it was shorter. I think you could have cut like 10-20 minutes out of it. But I actually wish this film was longer, so that we got to spend more time with these characters. We got to see them have more happy and joyous moments, because the film does, in my opinion anyway, from what I remember, lean more on the sad, melancholic moments rather than the happy moments. I mean, there are a lot of happy moments in there, there's a lot of humour in there, which is really funny as well, but it is also very emotional to watch because of what it focuses on at one section of the film. Like, I'm not going to go into too many details, but if you've seen the trailer of this film, you'll know that Florence Pugh's character gets cancer at some point in the film, and the film leans into that a lot, and understandably so, but I just would have liked there to be a couple more, like, where we got to see them, I don't know, on a holiday together, or we got to see them have more fun, because we get to see them go to a fairground at one point, and I wish we got to spend more time there, but you just see those characters having fun instead of trying to figure out how they're going to spend their time, or figure out how they're going to navigate through this difficult part of their relationship, you know, because there's quite a bit of that, and I always enjoy the fun stuff as well. Seeing the fun stuff in a romantic relationship when you watch a romantic drama or a romantic comedy. And this isn't a romantic comedy, so don't go in expecting something on the same lines as, say, like, I don't know, Notting Hill, if we want to compare this to another Richard Curtis film. And I don't go into expecting something on the same lines as About Time as well. I think About Time is a very different... Actually, I don't think it's a very different film, but I do think it's a different film, and I do prefer About Time... My hair keeps coming down, doesn't it? I do prefer About Time over this film, but I think this film works in what it is trying to do. It tells the story of an unconventional love story that you believe in, that feels authentic, and it is a beautiful film. It's beautifully directed and beautifully acted. The lead two performances, as expected, are absolutely brilliant, and the film is emotional. I think it wants to be emotional, and I think it succeeds in being emotional. It wasn't emotionally manipulative, or, okay, I suppose it was emotionally manipulative, actually, I take that back, but it didn't feel emotionally manipulative. I can't pronounce the word, apparently. It didn't feel emotionally manipulative. Got there in the end. Yeah, you know, sometimes you watch a drama and it can feel like they're just trying to make you feel emotions. I didn't get that from this film. I felt that all the emotion was genuine. It felt like the filmmakers were telling this story from a personal place. I don't know if they were, but it felt like that. And it felt like the actors had this personal attachment to the film as well. Florence Pugh is brilliant, as I've already said, as is Andrew Garfield. I mean, what are they not brilliant in? They're just brilliant actors. And I do think that within the next 5 years, yes, 5 years, we're going to see Florence Pugh win an Academy Award. I wonder for what. Maybe even this film. I doubt it, though, because she doesn't seem to be in the awards conversation, which is slightly surprising because of how good she is in this film. But there you go. And I do think within the next 5 years she's going to win an Academy Award because her performance in every single film she's in, I mean, she is absolutely remarkable, and she is remarkable in this film. I did not feel like I was watching Florence Pugh in the movie, even though she looks exactly like Florence Pugh in this film. You know, same with Andrew Garfield. They don't look unlike they usually do. But I didn't feel like I was watching them in this film. I just felt like I was watching Almut, and is that the name of the character? Yeah, I got it right. Almut and Tobias. And I love that about it. I love when you can totally believe in a love story in the romantic drama or romantic comedy you were watching. And I totally believed in the love story in this film. Plus, I love the music. There's a birth scene in the film, which I think is brilliantly done. Like, it's so good because it could have been silly. If it was done in a romantic comedy, it would have been silly. But because of the way this birth scene was done in the film, it added something to the film which I think was needed. I'm not going to go into too many details there, but yeah, that burst scene in the film I thought was perfect for the sort of film this is. And additionally, I loved the way the story was told in this film. You know, this film doesn't have chronological storytelling. It's told in a non-linear fashion, which means that you see their relationship. You see the start of their relationship, and you see how the relationship grows and progresses throughout the film, but you don't necessarily see it in that order. Like, you see them meet Q, if you will, but you see it like 20 minutes or half an hour into the film. The film starts off with them being together, but then it cuts to both of the characters, you know, not together and living separate lives, and then it shows you how they meet, and then it cuts to Florence Pugh's character Almut learning that she has cancer. And so the film's cutting about quite a bit, and if you're not really into non-linear narrative, you know, narratives like storytelling, like, you know, say Pulp Fiction, that's got a non-linear narrative. It's quite a big example. I'm trying to think of another film that I can't right now. I suppose Challengers, which came out earlier this year, that also had a non-linear narrative. If you're not into that sort of storytelling, I don't think this film will be for you. But that's one of the reasons I liked this film so much, because it had that non-linear storytelling. It stood out amongst other romantic dramas for me because of that. If the story was just told in linear chronological fashion, I'm not sure if I would have liked it as much. I think I actually would have felt it was generic, and I probably wouldn't have got into it much. But because of the way the story was told, and because of the way it's cutting back and forth in this timeline of their love story, I managed to get more engaged in it than I would have if it was just done chronologically, you know? And yeah, I just sat there and I was so into the film. I'm not saying it doesn't have problems. I'm not saying that at all. And I don't think it quite reaches the heights that it could have. But at the same time, though, I loved it. I loved it. And I think one of the reasons I did love it, and I'm going to get a bit personal here, so, you know, a little bit of a warning there. I think one of the reasons I loved this film was because I did feel like I could relate to it. Like, you see Andrew Garfield's character Tobias trying to grapple with the fact that his partner has cancer and that they might not have that much time left. And having known two people very close to me, I'm not going to say who, but two people very close to me who have had cancer and been through that experience and have come out on the other side, you know, in different ways, I found it very relatable. That I found that storyline very relatable, and I was like, it was hitting me in the feels for another reason, because it was, what am I trying to say here? I don't know what I'm trying to say. I was able to empathise with Andrew Garfield's character, Tobias. I think that's what the right term is there. And that made the film all the more emotionally moving to watch than it might be for someone who hasn't experienced what it's like for somebody they know to have cancer in their life, for somebody close to them to have cancer. But if you have experienced that, then I think this film will work for you on another level. And I think that's why it works for me on another level, and that's why I loved it, because I did sit there and I felt emotionally engaged in the movie because of the subject matter it was, you know, I was about to say touching on it. It doesn't really touch on it. It fully goes into it because of the subject matter of the film and because of the love story, which I totally believed in. Yeah, I thought it was funny when it wanted to be. It's not a rom-com. Don't go into this film expecting a rom-com, but it does have some funny moments which really work. I thought it was heartwarming when it wanted to be. I thought all the drama in the film worked and it didn't feel too mushy or fake. It felt all authentic to me, and so did the love story. And it just... yeah, I really got into it. I found it to just be an absolutely wonderful film, and I'm so glad that I did. You know, I don't quite understand the sniffy reviews it's getting, but then again, you know, some critics out there are just heartless, at least in my opinion. Yeah, because I do think, you know, you've got to be heartless not to be swept up by at least some of this film, and not to almost cry by its ending. And I was almost crying by the ending. I don't usually cry at movies. I'm not trying to sound manly there or anything. It's just the truth. I want to cry at films, but I can't think of any films that I've cried at. It's just the way I am. But I was almost tearing up by the end of the film, and I couldn't quite get out my seat, which tells you how much it worked to me on an emotional level. Yeah, I loved it. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that We Live in Time, I'm going to say it's a 9 out of 10. I would give it a 10 out of 10, but I just wish the film was a little bit longer and we got to spend more time with the characters. But I think what it sets out to do, it accomplishes in spades. You know, it wants to be this romantic tearjerker of a film, and I think it works in doing that. I was walking out the cinema and someone was walking behind me, and I held the door for them, and I could tell they'd been sobbing tears, you know, and I don't really like soppy love stories or anything. I don't like mushy love stories, and this isn't a mushy love story. It just feels real. You know, you totally believe in their story, which sounds like a small thing. But when you have two big actors like Florence Pugh, seems to be in everything nowadays, not this on her, I'm just saying, she seems to be in everything, but I think she's great. And Andrew Garfield has also been in a lot over the past, 10 years or so. When you have those two prolific actors in this film, you feel like maybe that wouldn't work. Maybe you just feel like watching those two actors playing their characters, you know? But you don't get that. And I think that's a big plus with this movie. Bigger than some people are letting on. And their chemistry, which is one thing I really touched on, their chemistry is off the chart. Honestly, if you didn't... I would believe they were an actual couple if I didn't already know that they worked, you know? And the film did work for me on a personal level as well, because I was watching this film and I'd known people in my life who have got cancer. I've had to see how it's changed their lives, and seeing how they dealt with the cancer storyline in this film was very believable as well. And I really admired that. And there was a tenderness with that storyline. You know, it didn't feel forced. It felt like they dealt with it in a way that, again, felt real. And I admired that quite a bit. So yeah, I loved this film for what it was. And I would definitely be rewatching it when it comes out on streaming or DVD. And so, all in all, as I've already said, and I was going to say it once more in this podcast today, We Live in Time is a 9 out of 10 from me. Anyway, guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen We Live in Time, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. Excuse me. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this video. And look forward to many more videos and many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. As I've already said, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.